up is a workshop that is focused on wellness for you, for your children, and for your families. So this is one that, we're giving you all these tools. This one is going to be the tools. I know I'm going to be sitting down and writing down some of these tools. We are so excited to welcome Dr. Kelsey Evans-Amalu and Dr. Christy Anana. I hope I didn't mess up your name. They are somatic wellness facilitators and educators who will guide us through a healing session focused on wellness and resilience for families raising LGBTQ plus youth.
Recording in progress.
In this session, you'll explore sustainable self-care, learn about emotional regulation, and walk away, hopefully with a personalized plan, I'll be writing mine, to support your family's mental and emotional well-being. And I am so excited to invite you both here. Take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for the introduction, Jennifer. I'm going to just briefly introduce myself. You did such a wonderful job in doing that already. But to kind of give some more context as to why I was so excited about this particular summit is I have a lot of background with Equality Florida personally and professionally. So my name is Dr. Kelsey. You can call me Dr. K. One letter's a lot easier to remember than a full name. My journey with Equality Florida actually began within my own high school classroom within Orange County, Florida. And I was utilizing a lot of resources that they were putting out during a time of real transition within the classroom. So to give you a better picture, this was around between 2010 to 2015. And when I talk about transition in the classroom, we're starting to look at new policies starting to come through within the state of Florida. It's definitely not what it is today because it's greatly transitioned for sure. But we were starting to see some of the inklings of not as supportive policies even back then. So journey began there. My PhD I completed at the University of Central Florida. And during my time there, a lot of my support in presenting some tools for my pre-service teachers who I was teaching, so future teachers within undergraduate and graduate work, was from Equality Florida. So I would consistently bring them in and utilize their wonderful resources at multiple institutions across the state. And I still am currently with UCF, but today I'm representing my company, the Mindful Prof, where we do work on parenting strategies from a somatic lens. Also, as a queer human myself, I use these strategies as well for my own felt sense of safety, especially in a world and in the state of Florida where it doesn't feel as supportive to be queer. And really needing to regulate myself and my own family. I also have a toddler. That it is these principles that we'll go over today are really critical, not just professionally from a client to client setting, and then when I'm also teaching at the university level, but really for support for myself from me showing up as a wife, as a parent, as a friend, and all the other roles that I wear. So I'm going to toss it over to Christy real quick, and then we'll get into more of the content.
Happy to be here with Dr. K. This is Dr. Christy Anana. I am a school counselor in Washington State, and happy to be connected with all of you. I've seen up close what the positive impacts of good support of our LGBTQ kids means to them and to the whole family. And I am in a supportive state right now. I'm hoping to keep it that way. But it's so helpful when parents are attuned and supportive of where their kids are and listening and keeping themselves in a good place so that their downstream health is good. So let's do this work together.
Thanks, Christy. I'll be sharing my screen and we'll be monitoring the chat. So if y'all ever have questions, comments, anything at all that you really want to be seen in, this is a place where we really do want to be seen by each other and behold and really feel support, not just cognitively, but also from a place of feeling that in our bodies, which may be that you haven't been able to feel that in a while. And I really hope that you feel it today. So without further ado, we'll get more into the content. There's lots of cool stuff coming y'all's way. Just give me a moment as I access that. And if Christy, if you want to go ahead and lead the orienting practice as I'm starting to share my screen, that would be great to start to offer a time of resourcing and orienting within.
Absolutely. Let's all take a moment to arrive, because you've experienced a whole bunch of things that you're integrating from the past sessions. And you're probably thinking right now, what am I going to do for the rest of my day? But let's take a moment to arrive in this space right now by finding where your feet are. Just noticing what your feet are feeling, noticing where you're sitting, what parts of your body are sitting on a chair if you're standing. Notice the earth supporting you. Draw some attention to your shoulders. Bring your shoulders open and down from your ears. And gentle lift to the chin. Imaginary strength pulling you up to the ceiling. And you can do this moment to arrive anytime there's a transition. You could teach this to your child. And we're going to do a centering breath using the box breathing method. And I like to teach kids using my hands. So placing your hands open as we begin. And with your first breath, I'm just going to prompt you as you're going to just be with your breath. With your second breath, I'd like you to relax your body just a little bit more. And with your third breath, set an intention for our time together. Or ask yourself, what would love do in this moment? Just to connect your head and your heart. So as you speak to your loved ones, you're speaking from that heart center. So with your hands open like this, as you breathe in, lifting up your hands for a count of 4, 2, 3, 4. Flip your hands and hold your breath for 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, and hold. And now relaxing body as you breathe in. Hold. Exhale. Hold. And what would love to? Breathe in. Hold. Exhale. Hold. And just notice the subtle and not so subtle changes within your breath, within your body. I can notice that I'm slowing down my speech. I'm noticing my awareness a little bit more full, not so centered around the technology of it all, just being with you and knowing you can do that whenever you need to. 3 breaths and you're helping your self-care plan for the rest of the day.
Thank you, Christy. I right before we got onto this call, I had to lay on the ground and breathe myself. So even though I preach these practices, it doesn't mean that I'm not doing them. It means that I have to do them even more, and maybe are more conscious of when I need to access them. So at any point when we are going over some information and trying on these practices together, that you want to take a step away, maybe try a different practice or get water, food, that is taking care of our bodies, and full permission and agency to take what you need. To go back over the workshop objectives, ultimately what we'll be looking at is looking at burnout prevention. I don't know about y'all, but every single day that there's so much news coming down the pipe that even that alone can create a sense of burnout. And then we all like have different microcosms of what we're personally moving through and macrocosms together. And when it comes to supporting more marginalized populations like our queer family, that can get really intense really fast. And these tools are really aimed at supporting from that space. Self-care has been quite a buzzword as well, where sometimes it feels like performative and almost like a Band-Aid mentality. But self-care really extends so much more beyond that, where we're going to be looking at self-regulation and resourcing, and also some co-regulation techniques. And we'll go over what that means and what those fancy terms are. And at the very end, we'll work on a wellness anchor plan that y'all will receive a PDF, and we'll go through it together, where it's something that feels really tangible that you can have printed out maybe around your house. And this can change and ebb and flow on a daily on how y'all want to check in with yourselves and your families. I'd like to check in as well with what's going on emotionally today for y'all. I know that this might be difficult to see, but if y'all can zoom in, you probably have seen the Wheel of Emotions before. Maybe you haven't. This is a bit more of an extensive wheel, and I'll go over more of like what this means and why it's helpful later on in the presentation. But I'd really like to hear more about how y'all are doing. And maybe you're holding multiple emotions at once, which is honestly quite common for me. And I'll use the example of kind of my day. My toddler's in the stage of exploring a lot more things now with her mouth. And she got the nail clippers and clipped her tongue. So she wanted to give herself her own piercing last night. So I'm feeling a lot of sympathetic, like higher stress in my body. She's completely okay. So we were able to take care of it last night, but I still feel the after effects from today. So even though I'm holding excitement for this conversation, I'm also holding a little bit of more startledness, which can kind of feel similar in the body. So just feeling a little bit more amped personally, but very grateful for the centering breath that we did because it helped like anchor me back down. So I'd love to hear more of, again, what's showing up for y'all emotionally. Again, you can zoom in and offer that in the chat. Hi, Jack. I just saw you put something in the chat. Thank you. So if it feels spacious to do so, you can write in the chat how you're feeling to be more seen in your experience. Yeah, you already see some of the opposite emotions showing up. And totally agree with some of the comments already, and that there's a lot of joy to be in a like-minded community where maybe we don't get that chance that often. You have a few more seconds for folks to pop in. Teeter-totter is a great description. Anxious and hopeful, yeah. And continue to offer anything in the chat. And if maybe you feel really seen in your experience and you want to comment and like other people's comments, I definitely welcome that, because it's a way to show that you are being seen and how you're feeling, which is really part of the process in co-regulation. So we are co-regulating in real time in the Zoom chat, which is always really helpful. And I'll be, again, monitoring the chat as we continue on. But for the sake of time, because I know that you're like, I really want to know what the wellness worksheet's all about. Let's get more into the conversation. So I'm going to toss it back over to Christy here, and
Yeah.
just thinking about more of like the terms that we're already using.
Mhm. I appreciate all the things that people are putting into the chat, just holding space for all of that. Um, yeah, it's a lot. And so as we think about our own self-care, which we can't fill from a empty cup, we can't, that old adage, you need to put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you can should do it to anyone else. I'd like to talk a little bit about self-care. There's three pillars of self-care. The first is foundational, just making sure you get enough sleep, which is the first thing that kind of goes out the window for me when I'm in a high stress situation. Um, Eating, hydration, all those foundational things, those need to be attended to first. And you know how you're with someone you loved and they're in an enormous amount of grief, you're forcing them to eat, you're forcing them to take some rest. So that's foundational, and it's hard, but we need to do that. We need to attend to that. Rest is important. The next pillar of self-care is more what we think of self-care. It's like going to the gym, being out in nature, spending time with your pets, going out with friends, doing your spiritual practice. Um, that too is non-negotiable, and we need to attend to those things that fill us up. And when we don't, we know that we feel not so good. The third pillar of self-care is what we do in that moment when the headline drops, right? Um, that news thing that might make us giggle at first, but then it's like, wow, this is so sad and so scary. Um, or an extended family member says something really hurtful. What do you do for yourself to help yourself feel it, be aware of it, and release it, and not make it about you? Like, is this mine? So it's grounding yourself, feeling your feet on the ground, uh, being able to send those emotions through your feet down into the ground. Um, Doing that over and over again will help you lead you to downstream good health. Otherwise, we're looking at compassion fatigue, where we feel like in a state of freeze, or we can't move forward, we can't make decisions, and eventually that will lead to burnout. So having community right now, knowing that you're not alone, that there are people that are feeling exactly the way you do, is really important. And understanding within yourself, what are the signs in your own body that help give you that feedback? We were talking about polyvagal theory. And so just to give you just a quick kindergartner's version, this is what I tell kindergartners. The vagus nerve is the biggest nerve in your body. It starts at the back of your throat and continues through your entire body. If you can relax your vagus nerve, you can relax your entire body. How do you do that? Well, you could enter through the back of your throat. You could start to go through a little bit of a yawn, but don't go through with your whole yawn, just like, and that helps to open up your throat. You could hum, and kids are the best teachers ever. They hum. Some kids, like, they hum all day, and they're like, wow, you've got a really regulated nervous system. You could put your hands behind your back and like lean back like you're in a hammock, and that opens up your throat too. I tell fifth graders who are taking our state testing, hey, take a moment and do that. And then you open up the vagus nerve, and all parts of your brain start to get connected. The other part of the vagus nerve that's really great to access is at your sacrum, the back of your spine. So if you can imagine your hip points, those bony structures at the front of your hips, and your sitting bones. And you could sit on your bum and feel those bony structures. Now you've got 4 points. And if you could connect those 4 points, you would get a rhombus kind of shape inside your body, a plane. And then that plane within your body, that rhombus shape, if you could imagine it expanding outside of your body. And as you breathe in, let it expand and relax. And then as contrast, squeeze it in. Really squeeze that rhombus inside your body and notice what happens to your body. Like I notice my shoulders come into each other. My neck gets a little bit crunched up and stiff. And then again, relax it. Let it go outside of your body and release. And this is what happens when we're stressed. We squeeze our butts. We all do it. I was doing it earlier. I'm probably going to do it again. We squeeze our butts when we are stressed out. Notice when you're on the phone with a difficult conversation, you're probably squeezing your butt. So what we can do, and we're not going to leave this workshop and you're never going to squeeze your butt again. Okay. It's not going to happen, but
That's, yeah. If you're leaving with that in mind, you're not going to, that's a false promise.
Right. But you are going to be more aware because you're going to remember this little giggle and you're going to remember, oh, I'm squeezing my butt again, like Dr. Christy said. So be aware, notice, try to imagine that plane, that rhombus shape in your body. Let it expand, relax, do your box breathing. And that is an acute self-care plan that gets straight into your vagus nerve and helps you to let go and relax a little bit more.
And Christy gave a wonderful overview of what polyvagal is. We're going to get more into detail into that on the next slide. But I'm curious as far as how do y'all know when you feel stressed out in your body? Like, what are the physical feelings that really indicate? So Christy gave one where she said that y'all got tight butts and not in the beneficial way. But how do y'all know when stress is happening in your body and not just the mind? So we're talking more physical body. What are some of the physical symptoms? Yep. Physically hot, nauseous. Yep. Headaches. I already love that that there's already different responses showing up because each person has their own individual stress response, even though there might be some generic. Yep, knees get weak and tense. What's interesting to me is there's a lot more responses here, even compared to the emotional check-in, where you're like, I know when I get stressed, like these are the exact things that I experience. So really take notice of that. Like y'all are keenly aware, but maybe it's difficult to support yourself in that space, which I know for me, it can be consistently that way. So maybe y'all already kind of noticing like, oh, these are pretty common experiences. I'm not alone in that. So for sure, upset stomach, dizziness, tight jaw, TMJ, headaches, body overheating. These are all quite common experiences when we're engaging in our sympathetic response. So we're going to go more now into nervous system and regulation, looking at polyvagal theory in a nutshell, and more about what self-regulation versus co-regulation is. And Christy already framed it wonderfully. So let's get into this. This slide, you might be like, holy crap, I feel my stress response turn on right now. Like, this is a lot of information. Maybe you noticed your tight butt. I'm going to walk away from today's conversation just thinking solely about that. And that's a wonderful insight. But instead of calling it polyvagal, a kid-friendly way to approach this, and you're more than welcome to call it polyvagal for sure, but I like to call this my traffic light signal emotions. And we can think about this in our red, yellow, green traffic light signals. For green light, we're going to call this our safe and social. So from here on out, I'm going to just refer to it as green light, yellow, and red light, rather than the scientific terminologies. Green light, you can also call it your ventral vagal response. So like Christy was mentioning, this is from a vagus system perspective. But this is when we feel more calm, curious, we're able to engage in play. We feel really anchored in who we are. And we are also able to respond to other folks in a more understandable way. So I already see that someone in the chat said, I'm more irritable with people around me and I'm really short-tempered. So that can give you an indication of like, okay, I am not accessing my green light traffic signal. Like it feels like I'm a little bit in the yellow, where the yellow light, or AKA our fight flight state, you can also call it your sympathetic engagement system. This is when our body necessarily becomes mobilized, where, yeah, we become a little more irritable because we feel more activated. From the more primal response in our body, all of these systems are really necessary. So none of these are quote unquote good or bad. There's no moral judgment here, but rather these are necessary. However, the caveat is the thing that is happening around me might not be a bear chasing me. It could be that I have a fear of public speaking and my body is responding in the same way that it would if a bear was chasing me. So speaking like I'm doing right now, I was a little nervous before. It's not a life-threatening situation, but my mind-body connection could be very much telling me it is a life-threatening situation. The fancy term for this is going to be neuroception, where our body mind is really scanning all the time for, am I safe? And that's a really big question. That question alone can be transformative into how we're viewing our stress response. Am I safe? And a lot of the times, with the policies that are happening in the state of Florida, that might not be the case. And you might be operating in a space that's like, I feel really mobilized on a pretty consistent basis. And I know for me, I can very much attest that anytime I get news notifications, my mobilization automatically responds. I feel more activated. And I've had to mute a lot of my notifications as a result, and I'll catch up at the end of the day where I can hold space for that to still stay informed. But my body's still responding in a way where it's like, hey, this is pretty stressful. And it's not diminishing that stress, but more understanding like why it's happening and then what to do about it. So yellow light, fight or flight, where you've already told me in the chat, like your stress responses of heart races, the muscles tense, clench, contract, the thoughts tend to speed up. And that's for a purpose of like, I have to be quick on my feet and think really fast if I'm in a situation where I need to get the heck out of Dodge. So all of this is quite purposeful, and our central nervous system is so amazing. But sometimes it might not be that life-threatening situation. And how can we respond in a more grounded and collected way? Final traffic light signal is the red light, AKA your shutdown or freeze. Also, scientific word is going to be your dorsal vagal, where we can think more about this as playing possum. So if the body has really done a whole lot, you've mobilized, you've tried your best to kind of like get the heck out of a situation, that last ditch effort will be more of the playing possum type of role. You can also see this in a fawning response of the appeasement or not being attuned to conflict or not wanting to engage in conflict. So then we just shut down. The body does also physically slow down, where there's a flat affect, meaning not a lot of emotion showing up. Dissociation. I work with clients consistently on a daily basis that are often dissociative in nature. I also see this in students all the time. And there's nothing wrong with dissociation. It's a survival response. In fact, all of these are survival responses. So if you notice that someone is completely checked out, they might be more operating from that red light traffic zone of it feels safer to check out than to check in. So keeping this in mind, we're going to break down more of this in further detail and how to notice this behaviorally. Some things to do that you can self-regulate as a parent and also do with your kids, and co-regulation of how y'all can operate collectively as a unit to help each other out. Christy, do you want to add anything to this?
Yeah, well, I was thinking that I was appreciating all the folks coming on and saying what happens in their body. They're very aware. So we have a group of people in here that are very attuned to their own body, but it's not your fault if you're not. And there are steps to help you get more connected. So even that little silly thing with your butt, it's a way to get into your body. And there's loads of ways to do that and to seek out help because it's not your fault.
Wonderful. And first one that we'll examine is shutdown freeze. So I'm going to be talking more about the yellow light. Christy is talking more about this one.
Yeah, so you might feel this disconnection and then you start doom scrolling. And again, that's not your fault. Like we are in a crazy, rocky time. So just being aware when you see yourself doom scrolling, disengaging, and then taking that opportunity, if you're aware, to get into your breath or to feel what your body is feeling or to ground, like Dr. Kelsey was talking about, just laying on the ground and taking a moment or doing an exercise, a little yoga pose can be really helpful. So all these little steps, all these moments, talking to yourself like you're the child who needs some support, like, oh dear one, I know this is I can't believe this happened again, or this does not belong to you. um, this person said this, that is not yours. And so talking to yourself as if you were the child who needs support. um, and you're doing so well, good work. And so as we regulate, because kids are looking at us, kids are watching us, if we're dysregulated, it's going to get worse. So doing for ourselves so that we can co-regulate with our young people who are looking to us for support as well. And safe place. Yeah, we're going to talk about safe place in a little bit.
And some certain things to look for, and none of this is very much from a generalized standpoint. So please know that it's not a cut and dry type of thing. And in fact, there can be overlapping states where there's mixtures of in between shutdown and sympathetic and vice versa. But thinking about as a parent, behavioral signs that I can notice within me when I am maybe in a more shut down state. It's very challenging for me to have any decisions be made. I kind of just like disengaged. I'm not showing up into the conversation. And I'm just plain surviving mode. This can also be true of a child, where they can be operating in a very similar fashion. And maybe things that you could look for physically in the body. Generally, you can tell based off of body language on someone's experience if they are in a more shut down state, as they tend to kind of hunch their shoulders. And I mean, we do that on a daily basis. So structurally, we just are so often hunching our shoulders, but it tends to be not looking at somebody to engage physically, and concaving down of the chest, where they do look more withdrawn physically in their body. And that goes for both parents and children alike. Um, Things to work into from more strategy based are self-regulation tools of gentle grounding, as Christy and I both mentioned. She mentioned breathing into your feet and orienting inward. And the 5-4-3-2-1 method is a wonderful external orienting tool. Is to be quite honest, sometimes it can be difficult to tune inward physically into the body when the body doesn't feel physically safe. And from a neurodivergent perspective, also as a human with ADHD, I find that sometimes accessing my body can be quite difficult, especially if there's also sensory processing issues going on, in addition to what a child or an adult is experiencing. That an external method like 5-4-3-2-1, where we notice the things around us, we try to pick out 5 things that we can see. I always forget, it's 4 things that we can hear, 3 things that we can feel, 2 things that we can taste, and I forget the last one. So don't quote me on that, but you will get that in your worksheet. Christy, if you want to save me on this one, I always get them confused. I always have to look it up myself, and I have a printout, but I don't have it with me right now. But ultimately is looking around and orienting externally to your space. And co-regulation, Christy was also mentioning this, that the tone of your voice does matter. Generally, it's hard to attune to another human's voice when we are in a shutdown state. Like it feels like it's like nails on a chalkboard. And having a lower tone rather than maybe really, really high, and having a more paced out sentence structure where I'm not going really fast, blah, 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 blah. Like that's more that sympathetic engaged state versus I need to slow way, way, way down, and also get on their level. Where child's levels generally, I'm short, so I'm already on a child's level. I'm only 5'2", but try and get on their level and crouch down and meet them where they're at. Same in addition to our yellow light traffic signal. If I were to generalize, many folks within the United States right now tend to kind of flip-flop between our yellow and red, depending upon like whatever the stressor is. So if I were to go on, I live in Tampa and I also have an office in Orlando. I'm on I-4 pretty consistently. I am operating my yellow light traffic light signal when I'm on I-4. Why? Because I have to be. I-4 is very stressful to drive and I have to be consistently on. If I were checked out, that wouldn't be good. I'd probably get in a car crash. So I have to be scanning pretty consistently for safety, because construction and people around Disney, like they're just really, there's no rules. So behaviorally, if I were to think about this from a parenting perspective, there's usually if my daughter, if I notice maybe we got a note home from her daycare the other day where it said she was being uncooperative. And I have a lot of things to say about that. That's for a different session and call altogether. She's 2, she's a toddler. But I noticed within me, I'm like, she's being uncooperative. What does that say about me? And I started to personalize it. And like, there's so many things where it's just like, I'm being really sensitive, but I'm also being protective. I go into mama bear mode. And I notice that protective, that yellow light traffic signals start to engage. I'm like, how can I fix this? What can I do to show up and kind of fix this situation? And that's definitely a behavioral instance of like my yellow light traffic signal is very much engaged, where there's that sense of urgency, like I need to act on this right now. My ADHD definitely doesn't help with that. So But there's this need for perfectionism to kind of like come in and fix it. Likewise, someone mentioned on the chat earlier that there's more emotional reactivity, aka you're snapping, sighing, withdrawing, where we get more protective / defensive in nature. And none of these signals are necessarily a bad thing. It's more to try to put it in perspective rather than like me jumping at the bit and like being angry at my partner. It's more saying like, why do I feel this in my body? And why do I want to act on that sensation and then wanting to like be mean to them? So it's trying to notice the urgency in the body first, and then responding in a way that feels conducive to the loving home and safety that you're trying to create in your family unit, versus the reactivity of me feeling this emotional experience in my body and then not knowing what to do with it, and just then acting on that emotion without maybe my prefrontal cortex engaging. Emotional tools, mindfulness tools to work with. We did our centering breath, which was the square breathing. This breathing technique, and we'll try it on right now, is a 4-4-6-2. It's a differing type of breath where the exhale, we can think about this two ways. Inhale is the sympathetic state, where it's like the active state of the breath. The exhale is the parasympathetic, meaning it's the calming side of the breath. So if you want to think about something like, I need to slow things down pretty instantaneously, think about the longer exhale when you're trying to maybe release that sympathetic engagement. So let's try this together. Just kind of being mindful of the time. And we have one more traffic light signal to uncover, and then we're going to get to our wellness anchor plan. So release the breath first if you're joining me in this breathing exercise. And maybe take your hand towards your heart if that feels conducive to notice the physicality of your breath, the embodiment. On your next inhale, inhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 1, 2. Inhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 1, 2. Final round. Inhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 1, 2. Inhale, big breath in. Let it out with a loud sigh out through your mouth. Do a quick body scan from head to toe. Notice how that feels. Maybe you want to put it in the chat and what showed up for you. But as we continue to access our body, let's take a micro stretch break, because you probably, wild guess, you maybe been sitting down for quite some time today, listening in. So let's move our bodies some by rolling our shoulders back a couple times. And maybe it feels natural for you to start to move your head some side to side. So lean into what your body might naturally want to do. There's a desire to close your eyes. Really try to lean into your body's insight. And take a gentle twist, move towards one side. Doesn't matter which. I'm sitting in a chair, so I like to use the side of my chair to kind of access that. Pull back towards center and switch towards your other side in your own time. Last time to pull back towards your center. Interlace your hands and start to move your wrists around. This might date myself, but I like to imagine I'm holding the tiniest lightsaber in the world. So wield your lightsaber from side to side. or whatever your cartoon or movie choice of preference and whatever you want to wield. And move opposite direction. So this might feel awkward for your brain, work in the brain as well. It's like, this is weird to think about. And start to release, shake it off, like you're flicking off water to the side. Take a sigh out through your mouth. Then release your hands back down to your lap or your side body. Yeah, I like that y'all noticed already the tingly sensation into your hands and deep breathing. So what that symbolizes is that's the sympathetic discharge, aka you releasing your yellow light traffic signal. So some of the energy in the body that's like prompting you to act. Like I'm feeling like this really, really anxious feeling and I don't know what to do with it. So we want to maybe access other tools like we just did. Co-regulation within this space of our yellow light can look like creating consistency and routine. Structure as a ADHD human can be quite complicated for me. However, it's really necessary for safety purposes, for expectations, to know what to expect. And consistent routines can also be quite helpful too. So co-regulation doesn't just have to be a body-based tool. It can be something as, I wouldn't say simple because routine is not simple, but it can be something like expectations, routine, and scheduling, and doing that as a family unit to kind of access and talk about it together. Likewise, modeling calm responses to stress is really, really helpful. As I know for me and my own upbringing, that wasn't as accessible and it wasn't modeled to me. So I ended up getting a PhD in it because I'm like, I don't understand what this stuff is. So if we were to able to model this in our own family, and whether our partner is also modeling it for us, or a child is also modeling it, because like Christy said, like our kids know a whole lot in how to model different things and what they actually desire. But modeling a calm response and anchoring down is co-regulatory in nature. And let me toss it back over to Christy for our green light. And she's going to share more about also her children's books.
And Dr. Kelsey, I just appreciate that you provided a structure for doing some somatic work. And you also allowed us to make our own choices about how to do it within our own body. So we did it on our own time. We can do it till it feels good. We could have this visualization if we wanted to, but you gave us that choice. And I think that's great modeling when we do that for our kids, even to talk it through. Ooh, bless you. To talk it through for ourselves. And then that shows to kids, that we take good care of ourselves, and that's good modeling.
Thank
Bless
you. You're
Um,
co-regulating in real time too with your
yes.
partner.
So green light, we know when our kids are feeling safe and relaxed, and that's the good time to do some of those practices so that we're not practicing when they are in yellow or red. We're practicing when they're green, so that when they know that they're not feeling this way, they can use these practices to help themselves feel better. And so I love the idea of creating or co-creating rituals for belonging within your own family. And Dr. Kelsey's little toddler is so lucky. I've seen her family is doing so much to do. They you'll see her on Instagram dancing with her little baby, her partner too, and that's really lovely. I'm sure she'll ask for that over and over again. In our family, we would ask at the end of the night, end of the day of the school day, what was the best part of the day? And there are days when you come in and you just hear from your kid lots of complaining. But when you pose that question, what was the best part of the day? It tends for them to go through a Rolodex of, well, this was okay and this was pretty good. It does that so that they're starting to see the good in each day. And then the next day, they're going to start to look for that good thing that they're going to tell their family about. So, and some days are like hard to find the best part of the day. And so when they were little, we would say, well, did someone fart in class? Well, did Carter fart? Because we always hear the fart report. That's the thing that happens at our house. So, all those funny things that go in with each family, and so co-creating all those happy memories. Um, and then the other thing that I would do with my girls is they would say, Mama, can you read us that thing that helps us to go to sleep right away and have good dreams? And it was this little relaxation script that I created to help them, and it was a little boat ride. And so it was so helpful to them that I started to create children's books. Um, so those are available on my website, iamhealingseries.com. They also are available on Amazon, but they're really nice way to connect in the green light kind of way to help them feel that relaxation in their body, help their brain just let go and head towards good rest, really deep rest.
Yeah, we've used Dr. Christie's books pretty consistently in not only our social emotional learning programming that we do with uh, kids really of all ages, but I also read that to my own daughter because it just makes it really accessible. A lot of these terms that many folks are just learning and accessing through therapy, that they also need to be taught to our kids. And to be quite honest, I also use that in my one-on-one client work because it's like, as you maybe have noticed, like these things that we're talking about are pretty complicated. And sometimes a children's book is exactly the way to access some of these bigger ideas, not just for our kids, but also for ourselves. I've learned more things from Dr. Seuss. And I used to use it even when I taught high school seniors and college students. Like these are big things to talk about, and children's literature is an excellent way to access that. So if you might notice that you have challenge in bringing up some of the things that we're mentioning today, one way to access that is through children's literature. I taught my child how to wear a bonnet. I taught my child how to breathe through books. And now we're conquering the ever scary journey of potty training. So I've been having to not only use children's literature, but also use my somatic tools a whole lot to help ground me and my partner in the scary potty training world. So as we are starting to kind of like put these things together, maybe you're like, oh my gosh, I am so overwhelmed by like all these things that we mentioned, and like I feel stressed about like what's going on in the world. We really wanted to make this feel more accessible to kind of like take away some of that stress. So we created a worksheet for y'all to walk away with, to think about how self-care is more of a rhythmic thing and not necessarily a rescue type of thing, that we can resource with it and work with it as preventative care and also some aftercare. And all of these are really designed as micro practices, meaning like it doesn't take a whole lot of time to access and practice. One of the research studies that we did, we were looking at the benefits of a meditation practice of a 5 minute versus 20. And I was very happy with the results where they both showed the same amount of support for stress levels. So it doesn't necessarily matter the dosage of your self-care practice, it matters the frequency. And if we can start to loop this in on a pretty consistent basis and make this like a muscle memory and neural pathway thing, It just is a lot better for everyone, inclusive of ourselves. So let's access now the worksheet. So I'm going to reload that before we get back to the PowerPoint. And let me know if y'all can see this. Christy, can you see the worksheet?
Not yet, but I think there were some instructions that were put on that you can access. Oh, now I do. Yes.
You can see it
also
now?
available on Sources. Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, on the chat, you can access it through the resources feature. So we've broken down this into a couple different prompts, and this is not an extensive list of examples, but it tends to be the ones that I just personally frequently use, both with my family unit, my clients, in corporate settings, with schools. There are other resources out there, so you can personalize it to however you would like. So choosing a couple of things. One, breathing practice. So breathing is definitely a self-regulatory thing. When done collectively in an environment within maybe your family unit, it can be co-regulatory. Breathing practices, examples, box breathing, we already practiced. The sigh out the tension, we practiced to like take that big exhale. The 4-7-8 breathing technique is going to be inhale for 4, hold the breath for 7, and exhale for 8. And I know I'm going through this pretty fast. You can type this into YouTube and it'll bring it right up, a bunch of different resources. If you don't personally want to lead, you can access YouTube. Hands on heart, we also access today. And belly while breathing helps to notice the physical embodiment of our breath, and counting 5 breaths before responding. I used to have a public broadcasting show called Happy Healthy Kids. Feel free to look that up. It's a wonderful resource. It was aired in the Southeast region of the US. This was one of the prime examples that I used to teach kids to create space between the stimulus and the response, meaning there's a trigger, they feel stressed out, and usually there's a pretty instantaneous behavior that shows up right after. If we can count to 5 before we act, to inhale 1, and maybe you follow the fingers to exhale 2, inhale 3, exhale 3, inhale 4, exhale 4, inhale 5, exhale 5. That gives a pretty good significant amount of time to not necessarily act on the emotional feeling in our body, and then to create space into what we choose to do so next. And I know that the finger counting is very much more of like an elementary school way to approach it. It doesn't have to. If you do have older kids, take that out and have them count to 5 instead, or maybe just take a big breath in and exhale out. And that can also work for y'all personally as a parent. Christy, for boundary setting.
Sorry, I'm having a little hard time seeing it.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. My eyes are. Yeah. Could you do that one, Dr. Kelsey? Sorry.
Yeah, not a problem. Yeah, I appreciate you letting me know. Boundaries are co-regulatory in nature and self-regulatory, where a boundary not only helps you protect your own energy, like to help ground down and feel that sense of safety where there's like that energetic, maybe slight distance, but it also prioritizes your well-being and then the other person's well-being. So boundaries can look pretty far ranging, depending upon what y'all have access to. But examples can include, I'm not available for conversations where my child's identity is being disrespected. So we're thinking about in the context of school systems where maybe something happened in the classroom and now you need to kind of put your foot down. This is a wonderful prompt that you can utilize in discussion, maybe with the teacher, the coach, any relationship that is happening where your child's identity feels really disrespected. I need 10 minutes alone after work before I talk to anyone. Yeah, I agree with the extended family for sure. Thanks for putting that in the chat. I like this one for, I personally utilize a word to kind of like create that time frame for me. So our word in my family, if y'all want to use it, please feel free to do so. It's no secret. I tell folks this all the time. In our family, we use the word namaste. I'm a yoga teacher as well. So namaste is like our personal timeout button, where we need a little bit of time to come back and revisit what we are needing to talk about. As an overstimulated mom, I can access namaste quite often, but then it's also important to return back to the conversation or whatever's happening. Likewise, in a professional setting, maybe I will check my email only once in the evening. We live in a world full of urgency, where maybe that's not as readily available. But I also include this in my email signatures where trying to disrupt urgency culture of saying I'll respond back in 24 hours. So thinking about maybe using these examples, what boundary can you set this week that supports your own well-being? Then finally, our belonging practice. We've been practicing belonging really all throughout these 60 minutes that we've had together, and seeing each other in the chats, and maybe seeing each other in the experiences that we've been naming. But belonging is co-regulatory, where belonging practices help the LGBTQIA community feel more safe, seen, and celebrated when they might not be receiving that in the school system. They can receive it at home in the family unit that you're wanting to create. So this could look like check-ins during dinner, as mentioned before, displaying affirming books and art, making sure to use chosen names and pronouns, and celebrating queer joy. I've seen a lot of queer joy documented in the chat, which honestly, like it will continue to feel that in my body the rest of today. So I really feel very grateful for y'all sending that in the chat, and me having the opportunity to observe it. So question to offer yourself within this belonging practice: what is one new or ongoing practice that builds belonging at home? And finally, kind of bringing it all home within our final reflection to offer for this conversation, since we have 2 more minutes. Thinking about this quote: rooted families grow resilient children. What surprised you within our conversation today? Maybe the different exercises that we did, and what do you personally need to keep showing up rooted and resilient? So not only putting this on the exercise sheet that y'all have, but now offering this into the conversation at large and what we're having. I'm curious, what surprised you, these exercises? And what do you need in addition to feel more supported that you can show up rooted and resilient? So I'm going to give y'all some space in this last minute that we have.